This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter, and this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello, and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And finally, you can support us on Patreon at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer at the minimum rate of $1 per month for an exclusive RSS feed with content recorded specifically for Patreon supporters. And if you pledge $5 or more, you get access to video, like reviews and stuff that we post on the regular sort of, I guess. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is Ben Sears, contributor to the website of ObsessiveViewer.com. Ben, how's it going? And also, I'm very nervous because she does not declawed.
Sorry, I can't talk. I'm petting the cat.
Oh, it's all good.
No, it's cool. I'm not afraid because I have two undeclawed cats of my own at home.
It's funny, like you're scratching her head, and I don't scratch her head that much, in that way. So I think it's just like, because I always do this, and she's just like, I'm pretty. Yeah. And then I always try to wub the belly, but she doesn't like to wub the belly. Okay. So hi, Ben. How's it going?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Pretty good. We are going to be reviewing The Lighthouse, the sophomore effort from Robert Eggers. Yes. Director of The Witch from, I think, 2017 or 2016, I think.
Either 16 or 15.
Okay, I think it was 16. I am so not prepared. But yeah, we're going to do that and then go through some news and maybe some potpourri as well. So we have it's 2015 that The Witch came out. So we've got a stacked episode this week on the Obsessive Viewer. So yeah, where do you want to begin, Ben? Do you have any? I should have. So stupid. I thought we should have reviewed Ben is Back because you're back. Did you ever see that movie, by the way?
No. I think I can't even keep them straight. Is that the one with Timothy Chalamet?
No, that's Beautiful Boy.
That one's Ben Lucas Hedges.
Has Lucas Hedges.
One of them, I think one of them is on my Amazon watch list or one of the streaming services, and
probably Beautiful Boy because that's an Amazon original.
Right. I haven't gotten around to either one of them. Yeah,
Beautiful Boy's really good. The thing that kind of, I don't know, not bothers me, but like there's Beautiful Boy with Timothy Chalamet and I almost called him Michael Scott. Oh my God, Steve Carell.
Yeah.
And then Ben is Back has, I want to say, Julianne Moore and Lucas Hedges.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also Boy Erased, which also has Lucas Hedges.
And is it either Julia Roberts or Nicole Kidman, one of them?
Oh yeah, in Boy Erased.
Yeah,
and Russell Crowe. I think it's Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe.
Okay.
I loved that movie. I thought it was really, really effective. But I didn't put it on my top 10. That's interesting. Maybe I saw it after it came out, or after everything was locked in. So anyway, so today we're going to be talking about The Lighthouse, which I'm very excited about talking about it, because that is a movie that is just has been sitting in my brain for the last 24
yeah, you just saw it last night, right?
Yeah. And I did it with a double feature of The Lighthouse and Parasite. And I guess I can go ahead and tell my stupid movie theater story. So it's the first time since getting A-list that the first time in a while okay, let me rephrase this. So it was the first time since getting A-list that I saw two movies back to back in the theater. And it was also the first time non-film festival related that I saw two movies back to back in the theater in a very long time.
Uh-huh.
And I'm 33 years old now, so like it was a little rough, but it was interesting because I saw the Lighthouse, and then I had like 20 minutes until Parasite, and I went over to the auditorium for Parasite, and okay, this is a classic like Matt Hurt movie theater weird story, but let me back up. At the end of the Lighthouse, I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but right at the end, like almost like at the end of the movie, this person walks in and stands in the row in front of me, and is like looking at their ticket, and they're confused, and they don't know what's going on, and I'm I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, how dumb do you have to be in the wrong theater or not know your seat or anything? And it's like clearly this person was in the wrong auditorium, and to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think maybe what they did was maybe they bought the ticket, but they bought the wrong screen time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that happened once or twice when I worked in the movie theater. And I'm sure you have experience with that kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. I mostly sold popcorn.
Nice. But, so I'm like sitting there, I'm like scoffing, like, how dumb do you have to be not to be confused and everything? And then I went to my screening of Parasite, and like I was sitting there, and I was there early, so it was like 20 minutes early. And then this man comes up and sits in the seat right next to me, and I'm like, is this like a packed screening? Because I mean it's like a Sunday night, and I'm like, this seat, like why get the seat right next to me? Like why do that? And like I noticed that he was there with a woman, and like she went to the concession stand or something, and then so I'm sitting there, and like this is like weirdly embarrassing because like when that sort of thing happens, I will go into the app and look to see what seats are taken.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, and so I looked, and it's like we're the only ones in that row, and I'm like, what is going on? And like I look, and like I notice like, oh, he like, and that's weird too, because it's just one seat. Like he just has one seat. Like where's the woman's seat? And like in that moment, I look over and he's staring at me and at my phone, and he sees me looking up the seats. And then there's a brief pause, like he like turns away, and I'm like sitting there. I'm like, do I say something? And then he's like, excuse me. And then this is where it gets really embarrassing, because for a brief moment, like he said, excuse me, are you? And then for the briefest like half second, I thought, oh shit, does he listen to the podcast? Did he recognize? Have I been recognized? But no, he said, excuse me, are you in the right seat? And it turns out I was in the completely other, like the other side of the aisle seat.
Oh boy.
And yeah, so yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not that big of a leap to make. I mean, you're a famous Indianapolis institution.
I thank you for that, and I agree. And yeah, no, but yeah, it was, and so the reason that happened is that I was in the same seat, like in the floor, in the layout. I like the seat that I was mistaken as mine was the same seat in the configuration that I was at in the Lighthouse, and like I got in like, oh, it's going to be the same seat, just assuming and not realizing that like that number is like seat 8 and seat 7 is way on the other side. So so yeah, that's always kind of my biggest fear now that assigned seating is a thing. Oh yeah.
Like I went to see Joker a few weeks ago, and I bought my ticket, and I made sure to check my seat before sitting down, and it was a pretty full screening, and these guys came into my row as the previews were playing, and they were like, one of them was like, yeah, I think you're in my seat. And I, like, for a brief minute, even though I, like, quadruple checked it, even before I sat down and after I sat down, I kind of was afraid that he was right, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you should know one thing about me, it's that I'm probably the least confrontational person in the universe.
Yeah. Same here.
If you come up to tell me that I'm in the wrong seat, chances are there's going to be a brief time that I'm going to believe you.
Right.
No matter how right I am. Just to kind of avoid any conflict. So
for a brief second, I thought what if I knew you weren't going to say this, but I thought how weird and out of character it would be if you would have said, like, if you come up to me and tell me I'm wrong, you're going to catch these hands. Anyway, sorry.
No, my mother taught me the right way. No.
Nice.
I totally get the fear of sitting in the wrong seat.
And it's so weird because, like, I had, like, no real fear until he said, like, are you in the right seat? And then, like, the more, I wouldn't say that this is the embarrassing moment of it because I was genuinely curious about this thing because he had said, like, yo, yeah, I didn't, like, I was like, oh, yeah, my bad, I'm sorry, I just,
right.
I'll go over, that's fine. But then he was like, okay, yeah, it's no problem. Me and my wife were using the A-list entourage thing, which for listeners, if you don't know, now A-list has this entourage feature that you can have like a quote unquote entourage of other A-list members that are part of your quote unquote entourage. So if like, say me and Tiny went to go see a movie, and he is at work or something, and I'm like, hey, let's get tickets and everything. And then he would be like, well, I'm at work, Matt. I can't get fucking tickets right now. I'm at work. I'm trying to provide for Gizmo. And then I'll be like, okay, well, it's fine. What I'll do, since we're in an entourage, I will just get your ticket as well. And so you can get group tickets, essentially, is what it is. So, like, the guy that
Can Jeremy Piven tag along?
Yes.
And Turtle and E.
Oh, God. E's not allowed. I don't like E. I don't like any of them, but...
Those are the only ones that I can drop names of.
Yeah, I don't like that show. Although, and I've said this on the podcast before, I love the bit on, like, Arrested Development Season 4 where there's a nightclub that they go to that's called And Jeremy Piven.
Oh, yeah.
Because the sign and the opening credits. Anyway, but the guy had said, like, yeah, I didn't know if we made a mistake or not because me and my wife used it was the first time we were using the entourage feature on that. And so, like, as I'm getting up, like, feeling like an idiot because I've gotten the wrong seat and everything, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like, how is it working out for it? Like, how does it work, or is it working well? Because I was, like, genuinely curious because I haven't used it yet. But anyway.
So you walked out of the theater with two new best friends.
I almost like stopped them. Like, if the situation would have presented itself where I was like walking amongst them as we were exiting the theater, I would have been like, hey, sorry for the confusion again. I have a podcast and here and all that. But they, were sitting through the credits and I was just like, I gotta pee. So I went to the bathroom. And then I left, and now they're gone from my life forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
What might have been.
Yep. So anyway.
Which brings us back to the Lighthouse.
Yes, the Lighthouse. Should we go? Let's do the news. I'm waving my hand in the air as if we have like a news bumper, like sound effect, but we don't. Beep, 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 beep. Anyway. So sorry. News for this week. We do have a couple of news items that I want to talk about.
And I do too.
And you do too, yes. So we're about a week late on this, and that's my fault. But, so last week, Benioff and Weiss from Game of Thrones, they announced that they are exiting their Star Wars trilogy project. Because they just had a lucrative deal come through with Netflix to create shows for Netflix. Multiple shows, I think. I don't know what the overall deal was, but and so yeah, what do you make of this news, Ben?
I'm okay with it. I think it's one of the details that I read was that one of the ideas that they had for the Star Wars project was like an origin story for the Jedi.
I read that too.
All of the Jedi, which I think could have been pretty interesting, but You know, I'm not going to lose any sleep over not having it. I mean, Rian Johnson is still going to do his Star Wars trilogy, so it's not like there will be a vacuum of Star Wars movies for the next few years. So it's
as much as I might want there to be.
Right.
Just kidding, Star Wars fans. Don't kill me.
Quick tangent. Have you bought your Episode 9 tickets?
I haven't, and the reason is because I'm going to use A-List for it.
Okay.
And I'm not too concerned about getting like opening night, whatever. I'll go like that weekend at some point. But I don't want to use up a reservation for A-List until I get closer to it, because I'm only allowed to have 3 reservations at a time. And it's actually funny. I've cheated the system a little bit. Sorry, AMC. But next Thursday, the 14th, there is, and I'm going to need to resurrect Anthology for this, that's currently on hiatus. There is a one-night event screening of short horror films from Look. No, not really. Shock Horror. Anyway, there's a one-night event screening of Twilight Zone episode.
Okay.
Yep, they're doing 6 episodes back-to-back in honor of the 60th anniversary of The Twilight Zone, which was October 2nd of this year. They're showing 6 classic episodes, and they're going to have like a mini documentary about Rod Serling. Super excited about it. Like, I'm crazy excited for it.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so it's November 14th. I looked at the tickets on AMC. Like, there's still plenty of seats available, so please go to it, because that's awesome. But the funny thing is it's a Fathom Events thing, so it's excluded from A-List. However, for like maybe 24 hours, it was on the app, and it was not excluded from A-List. So I snagged a ticket, and then like within like 24 hours, it became like excluded from A-List. But that reservation is still there for free through A-List. So I'm just like sitting there like waiting for it. So
nice.
Yep. So I cheated the system there. Yeah. So anyway, so once that passes is probably when I'll reserve my ticket for Star Wars. Yeah. How do you feel about The Rise of Skywalker? Are you excited about it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
One of my friends somehow got the hookup, and we're going to go to the IMAX at the State Museum.
Nice.
6 p.m. on, I think, the night before it officially opens.
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be pretty great.
Jeez.
I don't want to not see it in IMAX.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it should be pretty fun. I don't want to see it in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
Yep. That's awesome. That is, man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna see it, and hopefully it'll be good. But Benioff and Weiss, going back to the news, there's been a lot of like reaction from angry Game of Thrones fans saying like they killed the last season of Game of Thrones so that they could just drop out of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Or they ruined the last season of Game of Thrones for nothing. And like on one hand it's like I don't what do you make of that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they just ruined Game of Thrones by not knowing what the hell they were doing.
Right.
I mean, there isn't really a whole lot of indication that they can produce their own material, you know?
Yeah.
Because pretty much once the books were finished, that's kind of when the show started going downhill, really.
There's such a distinct change in even the, I don't want to say tone, but just like in the production of it. It's like it feels so much more loose than it was. And I thought maybe that would be countered with like in terms of their Star Wars trilogy. Maybe it'd be like, since they're completely creating it themselves, like maybe it would be fine. But yeah, I don't know. And there was an article or something that they said somewhere on a panel talking about how didn't read all of it, so I'm kind of gonna grasp at bits and pieces, but they were basically explaining how they basically lucked into Game of Thrones, and like it was like because they had no idea what they were doing. They like had a terrible pilot process. Like they used the pilot process to learn how to write for TV, and it's like, and like I don't know, not to get all 2019, but like a lot of people were like, so it's so hard for like minorities and people of color in the film industry to get work and be taken seriously and stuff. And then these two white guys just stumbled into the like the biggest TV series of our modern time.
Right.
And I'm like, I totally get that frustration. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna cry over, you know, them not putting forth their Star Wars vision. I am excited for Rian Johnson and what he has to do.
Here.
But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and so other news related to that is that the pilot for the Game of Thrones prequel that was going to star Naomi Watts, which I always thought was interesting casting, it was not going forward.
Yeah.
So that's done, and that was supposed to be set like 1,000 years before.
Yeah, I think both of them were supposed to be very, very long before the events of the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But the one am I right? The one that is being produced is about the Targaryens.
Yep. They did announce that the House of the Dragon is the title of it, is going to be the prequel that they're moving forward with. They actually gave it a full series order, so it's going to have a 10 episode first season. It's greenlit and good to go. They even have like the logo design and all that. Does that interest you? Are you excited about that?
I'll probably watch it. What makes me most excited, which I read about, is George R.R. Martin has said that he will finish the next book before the prequel series comes out.
Did he really say that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
the balls on him.
Though, I mean, I'm curious to see how many times he has said something similar to that. Yeah. And not followed through, but
wow.
That's what he says. So
it's so funny to me because he, it's not funny. It's more infuriating than anything. But it's anytime anytime he posts anything, I'll because I hate myself, I will go into the comments and look at the comments and so many of them are why are you doing this? Write The Winds of Winter. And I'm like,
yeah, I'm
sitting there and I'm just like, if I was in his position, I would just say fuck it. I would be like, no, I'm not. No, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna take another 7 years.
Right.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, 6 books would be fantastic. I doubt that there will be 8, like he originally said.
Yeah.
But I mean, just give me something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, so I'm very curious about it. It'll be interesting, and we'll see what happens. I don't think they set a release date or anything. They just announced that it's going to happen. So.
No, I don't think so. I don't even know if they have set any casting decisions.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
so I would anticipate probably the earliest we'd see it, and this is a pretty loose conjecture on my part, but probably 2021.
Yeah,
I would think. Which, speaking of future dates, also just throwing this out there, and then we can get into our review. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 has a release date. It is,
hell yeah,
yes,
2022.
Yes,
yeah,
I think April, 2022.
Yeah,
yeah, that's exciting. That's all we have about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I need. I'm going to go from here to camp out in front of the theater.
Nice.
And, yeah, sign me up.
Nice. I'm so excited for that. And I'm glad that they're not rushing it. Like,
right.
So many people, I saw so many people saying, like, oh, it's going to take too long. It's like, do you realize how much time it takes to make an animated movie?
Yeah.
And, like, it's just let them work on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad they're not going like the Disney or Marvel route and just cranking it out there.
Yes.
Now that the first one had some success.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll get a good story out there.
Yeah. Like when I was at the movie theater last night, I passed by the poster for Peter Rabbit 2. And I'm like, Peter Rabbit came out like at most like 2 years ago, and maybe even last year. I'm like, they already pumped out a sequel? Like, seriously? I don't think it's coming out until the spring, but it's just like, eesh, I don't know. Yeah, any other news that you want to talk about, or shall we go into the Lighthouse?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Nothing worth talking about.
Same here. I feel like as soon as, like probably at the end of this recording and everything, I'll like think like, oh shit, I should have brought this up, but that's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and review The Lighthouse. First, Ben, I just want to get your thoughts on The Witch. Came out in 2015. Anya Taylor-Joy and some other people. How did you feel about The Witch, and did you revisit it in preparation for The Lighthouse?
No, actually, I just watched it for the first time
nice.
2 weeks ago.
Nice.
And I really liked it. Yeah, I don't know why other than it, horror movies just aren't really my thing. Although they are more and more these days. So I kind of skipped over it when it first came out, but I've heard more and more things lately about it, and I wanted to kind of familiarize myself with Robert Eggers, and I'm really glad that I did, because I liked it a lot. Yeah,
me too. I revisited it for the first time since I saw it in the theater. Revisited it like 2 weeks ago. And man, it holds up so well. It's so unnerving, and just, he creates these worlds that, like, it's so authentic. Like, it's just so good.
His big thing, I think, is his attention to detail. And his dedication to realism.
Yes.
Like, I don't think, really the biggest thing about The Witch that you notice right away is like the language that they use and how authentic it seems. And I don't think that movie would have worked nearly as well if they would have just like talked like they do today. You know?
Oh yeah.
So I really liked that little detail about it.
Same here. And like that kind of title card at the end that says like, this was, the dialogue from this was taken from actual accounts and stuff. I'm like, okay, you're being a little cocky, but okay, you earned it. But I do remember when I went to see The Witch in the theater, two things about that. One, I was nervous because I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to like understand what was going on, because I didn't know how like heavy the language would be, and like heavily authentic. And I was fine. And it worked fine. But, the other thing was that I remember, like, I want to say that The Witch was kind of the start of my kind of growth, or kind of, I guess, my adjustment of my consumption of horror movies. I've talked about it before, like Hereditary, like, messed me up because it was emotional horror. And, like, The Witch is a similar thing, and I think that was kind of the start of this new way of looking at horror for my personal taste, because like I left the theater and I just felt unnerved. Like, it wasn't anything, like I wasn't scared that, oh, a witch is going to come get me or anything.
Right. It wasn't something that kept you up at night or prevented you from sleeping.
Yeah. Like I just remember feeling so uneasy. Like anytime she is like when she mentions, when Anya Taylor-Joy mentions that she's like, she jokes that she's the witch and everything to scare the kids. It's like I was amazed at how the movie just kind of shows like how dangerous that is, because like you can just be accused of being a witch, and like that stuck with me so much.
Right.
And so much more effective than like, you know, jump scares or, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I liked it. And yeah, I don't remember if I put it on my top 10 list of the year. I don't actually know if, I think I did, but I don't remember. It may have been one of those movies where I watched it after the new year. Would it have made your top 10? Do you make top 10 lists? Have I asked you that before?
Last year was the first year that I have.
Right.
So no, I don't think I did back then.
Okay. Nice.
But I'm sure it probably would have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember off the top of my head some other ones that I saw that year, but yeah, I'm sure it probably would have. Nice. Now that like the decade is coming to an end, I'm kind of considering like a best of the decade list, and
nice.
I think it might be on there. Just kind of depending on what else I think about.
That is a tall order. And that would make me so anxious to try to make that. And I probably will try to make a list like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's only, a little under 2 months left, so get to work.
Yep. I will get on that. So, let me try to transition to our actual Lighthouse review. Speaking of getting on that, in the case of that being a mermaid, let's talk about the Lighthouse.
Oh boy.
That is that technically? That's not a spoiler. Anyway.
No, it's not, because nobody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, and there have been articles about. Anyway, the Lighthouse. So we're gonna do non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review. We will tell you when there are spoilers coming. We'll play a clip from the trailer, and hopefully we don't go mad.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is probably as good of a time as any to make our announcement that we're actually recording this from a lighthouse where we're going to be working.
Yes.
For the next 4 weeks.
But one of us is not allowed in the actual light.
Right. Well, you've been doing this longer, so that's probably you. It's. I mean, it's kind of weird that there is a lighthouse here in Indiana, but I mean, that's where we are. I'm sure it'll turn out well. So
I so badly want to attempt a Willem Dafoe, but I can't. So like, all I'm gonna say is like, we're not totally landlocked, matey. But that's terrible.
We'll check back in on that.
Yeah.
Keep working.
Yeah. Assuming it makes it into the episode. So, plot summary courtesy of IMDb for those who haven't seen The Lighthouse, and are sticking around for our non-spoiler review. The hypnotic and hallucinatory tale of two lighthouse keepers on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. Now, Ben, you saw this movie a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to see it a week ago, but I was, I probably should have told the story earlier, but basically, I went to the theater last week. We had planned on recording, I think it was Tuesday, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and like, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go see The Lighthouse immediately after work, come home, and then you were gonna come over and we were going to record a review of it. So after work, I go to the theater, I get to my seat, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching the movie, and I'm like I'm aware of how much time the movie is going to occupy my eyeballs. And it's immediately after work, and I'm so tired. And, like, I caught myself nodding off, and I was just like, do I push through this and just, like, force myself to try to connect the insane imagery that I'm seeing? Or do I tap out and be a dick and cancel? Which I tapped out.
And remind me again, at what point was that? Was it, like, 10 minutes into it, or
it was like 45 minutes into
okay.
it. Like, I remember the exact moment. Let's see how to when they're toasting to the end of their 4 weeks.
That
was the moment where I was just like, okay, I gotta call it. I can't do this. So I left the theater in a huff. And then I texted you, and you were very gracious to reschedule. And then, so we decided to record tonight, which is a Monday night, and I waited until Sunday night to see the movie. So what were your viewing conditions in the theater, and how was the viewing experience in the theater?
Well, I was equally sleepy when I saw it, but I finished it the first time that I saw it.
Nice.
So, and I have 2 kids at home that zap all of my energy. So, basically, I'm better at this than you.
I think so. Although I will say, life insurance policies are kind of like children in and of themselves.
Oh boy.
When I spend, let me get on my soapbox and talk about how processing paperwork for an insurance company is like parenting. I agree. I think maybe it could be possible that you are more
dedicated.
I was going to say conditioned to not have to be sleep deprived and everything. But yeah, I don't know.
I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. But yes.
So yeah, I saw it. So it released. I don't know if it was considered wide or just more than just the initial release. Yeah. So I saw it the first weekend that it was here in Indy, which I think was like the 26th of October. Mm-hmm. The very last screening of the night, which was like 9:30. And there was, there was maybe 5 to 10 other people in the theater. Right. So, it was, overall, I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was very excited from, I forget when exactly this was. It was probably like one of the early festivals of the year when word had gotten out that it was like Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe on a lighthouse, and they're shantymen and they have accents. And I was like, yep, sign me up. I'll be there. And then the trailers came out, and I was even more excited, even though, like I said, I hadn't seen The Witch, or I wasn't all that familiar with Robert Eggers. So I was all about it.
Nice.
And yeah, I'd say it lived up to my expectations.
Sweet. I had pretty high hopes for this movie. Because just the buzz surrounding it, and I mean, it's the sophomore effort from Robert Eggers after The Witch, which was one of those movies which blew me away. And it's so, I don't know. I was just really interested in it, and I purposely didn't watch many. I knew the basic premise, just 2 guys in a lighthouse.
Yeah.
2 guys, 1 lighthouse. But I'd only seen the trailer once or twice, and it's such a visceral and such a unique visual style. It's kind of I think it's 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah, it's almost square.
Yeah, and it's just it works.
Oh yeah,
so well.
I was thinking this not long after I saw it, did the movie need to be in black and white? And I feel there's no real thematic reason for it being black and white, but I don't really know how to describe this accurately or eloquently, but I don't think it would have worked as well if it was in color, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think the black and white, and like there's a lot of shadow, and like the lighting is just it's impeccable. Like it's insane. And like the black and white, the kind of lack of light throughout a lot of the movie, and there's a lot of scenes of them being kind of just in silhouette and like low light.
Right. Yeah. Well, it takes place, I think, in like the 1890s.
Yeah.
So there might have been running electricity. I mean, obviously there is electricity because it's Lighthouse, but most of the Lighthouse and the scenes where it takes place, there's no electricity. It's just like a single light source. Mm-hmm. So
it's like natural light and like candles and lanterns and stuff. And like he uses that so well. And the cinematographer, whoever it was, I didn't look up, just is amazing. But that combined with that kind of tight, squared aspect ratio just makes you just feel as confined as the characters are. And it's just so, like, it's so immersive. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. There's a couple times when, so we kind of alluded to this earlier, but like, Willem Dafoe, he's kind of like the seasoned veteran of the Lighthouse, and he's the one that actually runs the lighthouse up top, and he kind of like forbids Robert Pattinson from ever going up there. Yeah. And so there's a couple times when he climbs up the staircase and like the light from the lens is showing through this like metal grate that's the platform up above, and it's just the shadows that he uses. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And just the mystery surrounding, I think it might be a little diminutive to say it's a mystery surrounding the lighthouse or anything. Just the ominous kind of pull of the lighthouse, of the actual light of the lighthouse, is just so just palpable because you're in there with Robert Pattinson's character, and like these characters go like, it's just like this is gonna sound so trite and hokey, but it's like a ballet of madness. Yeah, like it's so just batshit crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean it's like if you see the trailer, you kind of get an idea of what the movie's going to be, and you might say this is a detriment to it just because, you know, you can kind of see where it's going, but the way that he uses it to get there is very captivating.
Yes.
And I was enthralled by it pretty much the whole time.
Oh yeah, I definitely was the second viewing. The first one I wanted to be, but I just could not do it. Having those life insurance policies just at home, at work,
they keep you up at night.
They do, yeah. Begging me to change the beneficiaries, and like I just can't have a moment's peace. It's so dumb. I'm sorry to you and to all the parents listening. Anyway, the amount of craftsmanship in this movie, like from an actor's perspective to the filmmaking, the camera movements, and just the surreal nature of the entire movie, because it's like, it is bonkers. Like, we'll try to parse it in our spoiler section, but like, this movie is flat out insane, and it's so it works.
Yeah, and it's like, he doesn't go too off the deep end. Like, there is some crazy shit that happens, but it's not like if you were working with the same person and being around them for 24 hours a day for 4 weeks straight, or however long it happens, because you don't really, it's kind of unclear just if they are there for 4 weeks or if it's longer or what it is. But I mean, if you were around the same person for that long, then you would probably go crazy too. you know?
I worked nights with Tiny for several years, and yeah,
So he basically he stole the idea from you guys.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's so I don't like. How can we? What else can we talk about in non-spoilers?
Let's talk about the performances.
Yes.
So
yes,
it's kind of a two-hander, really. I mean, there isn't like I think I read. This is an A24 movie, right? Yep. I think I read that A24 is going to submit Robert Pattinson as a lead actor for the Oscars.
Oh, nice.
But really, I mean, you could see Willem Dafoe being the lead as well, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because they kind of have equal screen time and equal weight to their stories. So,
yep.
But yeah, they were both. I mean, just even the accents, just that alone is just
incredible,
worth the price of admission.
Oh yeah, and I feel like Willem Dafoe, and maybe it's just because he's a more seasoned actor, but like I feel like I think he was the standout of the two. Not to take anything away from Robert Pattinson,
right?
But I mean, just his performance was just incredible. Like the way, and maybe it's more because his character is faced with a lot of the pointing out of madness rather than
he's
experiencing madness.
It's a stretch to call him the straight man,
right.
But he's as close to the straight man as you can get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The seagulls are the straight men of the movie. But it's and just the set design and everything. I haven't read up on it, but I know that there's like trivia about like the construction of the lighthouse.
Yeah,
it was like massive.
Yeah, those exterior shots, they're real. From what I've read, they built this little lighthouse off of the coast of Nova Scotia, and I don't remember if they said that it actually works or not. But I mean, they built it. So, and the island, if you've seen it, it's just this tiny little, just rocks. There's no fields or anything really. It's which kind of helps to understand like how these guys can go so crazy. Just like there's nothing else for them to do, you know?
Oh yeah. Like they don't have the Obsessive Viewer podcast to listen to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and like the way that the storm sequences are just like it comes in the second half of the movie, but it's like at that point we've already been like entrenched in this world, and just having the chaos of the storm and everything is just really it's like a payoff that I wasn't expecting, and it's done so well. And like I said, the camera work it's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, the performances were great, camera work and everything was great. Anything else in non-spoilers, because we're dancing around some stuff, I think, or I'm withholding a lot of things.
How did you feel about Pattinson?
Oh yeah, well yeah, we didn't really talk,
because I forget if we've talked about this before. You haven't seen Good Time yet, have you?
I haven't.
Okay. So what's been your experience with Pattinson, other than the Twilight films, which I know you're a big fan of?
It's funny. I have seen, in my youth, I saw all of the Twilight movies except for the last one.
Well, I mean, we're the same age, and those weren't really in our youth.
No,
so
not
we were both
so
adults.
Much. Yeah. But I did it because it was fun to rip on them.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. So, of course, I know him from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
As Cedric Diggory. What else have I seen of his? Oh man. It's funny because like I'll see that he's in a movie, and I'll see that he's in a movie that is like clear, like I'm really impressed with the amount of just different work that he's doing.
Yeah.
Like it's really impressive. It's like he's on a mission to distance himself from the Twilight franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't blame him.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen any
okay.
of
Check out Good Time. Make that number one.
Okay.
High Life, which he was in earlier this year, is also great. And then he's in The King, which I'll talk about later.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if this is your only Robert Pattinson movie other than Twilight, you're in for a real treat, because he's pretty bonkers in this, and just he does this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's British, and the accents that he can do, they're all kind of exaggerated, but they work really well, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
And his character is, I mean, he's more or less the one that's going crazy. So, I really liked him in this. I don't know if I'd say it was my favorite performance of his. Good Time,
okay,
I feel like is still my favorite, but this one is probably number 2.
Nice. Yeah, I will have to watch more of his stuff and report back, but I will say without question, this was the best performance I've seen from him, because I've only seen Twilight and Goblet of Fire. But yeah, I was really blown away by his performance. Yeah. And I want to ask you, this is I don't expect you to have caught this, and it could be in my imagination, but, it is in black and white, obviously. There's a moment where Willem Dafoe slaps him at the table, and he jumps back, and I feel like it could have been my mind playing tricks on me, but I feel like there's a brief moment where I think he's wearing like a poncho or something, like a rain poncho or something, but like there's a brief moment where it almost looks like it's yellow. Like you can almost see the color of it. That could 100% be my mind screwing with me. But did you pick up on that at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Maybe I'm crazy. But because that's the only time that I saw any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. And then like I kept asking the people in the theater, like, well, why don't we just leave the theater? And then they're like, well, you've been saying that over and over again for weeks. Which I guess that's as good a time as any to go into spoilers. Do you think?
Sure.
Anything else we should? I should say you did write a very nice review on the website at obsessiveviewer.com, where you rated it 5 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check that out, guys, and share it around.
I will say, just if you want us to go and see this, go and see it, because I don't think it's going to be playing here in Indy very long. Right. I mean, I saw it, like I said, the first weekend that it came here to Indy, and it was only in 2 theaters. Yeah. And I think last weekend it might have been playing in a couple more, but it's probably not going to be here for long. So go and see it if you can. I totally agree, and it's something that visually, you should definitely see it on the big screen, because it's very visually arresting. Right. Yeah. Do you think it'll make your top 10? Yeah, I think so. Nice. What about you? So. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be up there. It's going to be so interesting. I posted this on Facebook because it's a shameless brag, but I saw the double feature, The Lighthouse and Parasite, last night. After seeing those movies, I am up to 70 movies released in 2019 that I've watched in 2019. So that's to say that I have 70 movies so far from which I will make my top 10 list. And I have little less than 2 months left, and I really think I'm going to hit 100. Okay. So hopefully that happens. Yeah.
I'm certain it will. Anyway, let's go into spoilers for The Lighthouse. I'm going to play a clip from the trailer, and then when we come back, we're going to be spoiling The Lighthouse. Says he, says I, or says he, or how did they, I don't know.
Ahoy.
Yeah. Says I, The Lighthouse. Okay, here's the trailer. We're going to spoil it when we get back.
Why don't you spill your beans? Why don't you spill your beans?
Okay, spoilers on for The Lighthouse. Okay. How do we spoil this movie?
Boy.
I will say the actual moment that I left the theater was actually when, like, the moment where I was like, okay, I really should leave the theater at this point is when he kills the seagull.
Okay.
Because I was just like, there's so much going on here. I can't focus.
Yeah. That is kind of when things start to get a little nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Like you point out in your review, and it's such an interesting part of the movie that there's kind of this like almost gaslighting thing that Willem Dafoe's character is doing.
Yeah.
Do you like where do you fall in this movie? Like, do you think that Robert Pattinson really did go crazy, or was Willem Dafoe crazy and trying to make him think that he was crazy by saying like, "Oh, we've been here for weeks" and everything?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that Willem Dafoe, like, he's almost like untrustworthy, I guess. And I mean, because there's that one part early on when he's telling Robert Pattinson about like why he hobbles when he walks.
Yeah.
And you're not sure if he broke his leg or if he like got scurvy or something. So he keeps changing his story. So you're not really sure like whether he believes it or whether he's trying to fuck with Pattinson or just what it is. So I like the lack of clarity that you have on that. I don't know, sometimes that vagueness is kind of irritating, but I think it works here. So let me ask you something, and it's kind of something that I've been wrestling with since I saw it. Is this a case of Robert Pattinson going crazy and being like, The Lighthouse made me do it, or is he just kind of like just crazy from the start, and then just being in close quarters kind of doesn't help all that much, and experiencing all that he does? Or do you get the feeling that like The Lighthouse has this like supernatural power over him or something?
That's a good question, because I feel like it can really go either way. Like, the movie is kind of pointing us to the actual lighthouse having some kind of supernatural property, and like it's consuming Willem Dafoe. And like that's the kind of thread that I was following for a lot of the movie. But then there's like, it just feels like a switch that it's like, feels like maybe he is more crazy from the outset than has been let on, because his backstory and everything.
And then the part that really muddles it is like the very end, not the last shot, but I think like the second to last, when he actually does go up to the light, and just what happens there, which I thought was just incredibly well done and shot and performed.
Good.
That kind of it gives you the vibe that like that there is something more than meets the eye to this lighthouse.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also something that it could be just his mind is so fractured and crazy that it's just putting more into it, because nothing like supernatural comes out of it or anything.
Yeah, I like that it's not like a haunted lighthouse, or there isn't some kind of like ghost backstory to it or something.
And like that's one thing I really love about both this and The Witch is that Robert Eggers is clearly influenced by Kubrick. And like even stuff like just kind of surface level like references like the axe stuff and him like looking into the lighthouse and everything is just so evocative of the kind of thing that Kubrick did throughout his career. And it's so surreal and weird and unapologetically so, which is what makes it so unique to me watching it here now, and what I think will make it a very memorable experience for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it just looked really painful when he fell down the stairs.
Yeah, pretty much. I wouldn't want to do that.
Yep. And that last shot, just of the seagulls eating him, just
yeah.
Oh.
I think that was a pretty ideal way to end it too.
Yep.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of The Witch again, did you feel like that shot of him when he gets to the light? Do you think that was a little too echoey of the end of The Witch?
Maybe a little bit. It's funny. Maybe just a tad, but I think that the end of Hereditary was more evocative of The Witch.
Okay.
Which they don't have, like they just have A24 as a common thing. But it didn't make me think of The Witch in the Lighthouse or anything.
It's probably just because I had just seen it for the first time.
Yeah, but I definitely, there are some parallels that can be drawn there.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm okay with it. It didn't really take anything away from the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
And how I felt about it.
Oh yeah, and the way that the movie, it's so hard because I feel like I'm going to sound like an idiot when I try to talk about like the kind of themes or whatever, but this whole like weird like struggle between the two men in the movie, like it goes to some weird, like there are like weird tangents where it's like they're a married couple, like
right. Yeah, I mean,
so bizarre. It's
not like a slippery slope where he just gets crazier and crazier. Like there are some moments when they are kind of friendly towards each other. But I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, it really plays up the isolation and the loneliness and everything. And then like there's that scene where they're arguing over the cooking and everything. Yeah. And like I was like in my head I was like I just imagined like the like posting a frame of that and just putting like Marriage Story 2019.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like that, and it's such a weird movie because like we have that intense scene where they're arguing and everything, and then it ends like the button on that scene is a joke, like that's kind of a jokey kind of like or like I think it's Robert Pattinson saying is like, yeah, I do like your cooking. It's so weird, and it's something that's just really messes with you.
Yeah.
I really really dug that. Robert Pattinson's big freak out scene.
Where he's like stumbling drunk and
yes.
Yeah. And he like I think he loses his shit over like Willem Dafoe keeps farting and
yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I thought that was just an incredible scene from an acting perspective and everything. Just he was insanely good.
Yeah. He plays a pretty good drunk.
He does.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if you were in 4 or 5 Twilight movies, you probably would too. That's I don't know, whatever. But
he's a stand-up guy, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, there was something I wanted to say, or something I wanted to bring up.
Well, I also like how it's also not totally clear because he starts the movie out. He tries to stick to the rules and he doesn't drink. And he references like the handbook or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like the storm happens, and then he just kind of lets loose and he starts drinking, and he's falling down drunk all the time, and so that's another thing that kind of drives him to going crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel like because in that big confrontation scene where he's drunk and everything, he mentions that he found the log and he recites pieces of it saying that it's, that basically the implication is that Willem Dafoe has been keeping a log of all of his wrongdoings and everything, and he's going to recommend dismissal without pay and everything. Where do you come down on that? Do you think that is truthful, that Willem Dafoe did write that, or that he is just imagining that and that's part of his psychosis and craziness?
Man, I hadn't really thought about it, because I mean, I think you could go either way, because I mean there are scenes where he sees these things that can't possibly be real. Mm-hmm. Like there's the scene that he obviously all the stuff with the mermaid.
Yeah.
And then
much as we might want it to be real. I might cut that out. Anyway.
It might have been the last of them.
Yeah.
So, and then there's like he's pulling up the crab trap or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like a dead guy's head. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that he made it up and it wasn't real. But
yeah, because like after that, when they have their big scuffle, Willem Dafoe like transforms into Robert Pattinson's like former partner in the timber industry,
Timberman.
Yeah, that he let die essentially. It's so just bonkers. It's so good.
Well, I think if there's any justice in this world, Willem Dafoe could get an Oscar nomination for this, and I think without a doubt the clip that they should show is like the entire speech that he gives when he's like cursing Robert Pattinson, and he goes on this whole spiel about like I it's been too long. I don't remember it word for word, but it just gets crazier and crazier as he talks.
Oh, it's so good. And then like toward the end when that's one thing that I found really fascinating about it, is that the kind of, I guess, role reversal, it could be a little bit on the nose, but just like Willem Dafoe becoming a dog and becoming obedient and everything. I thought that was a really interesting like depiction of the reversal of their dynamic, and that Robert Pattinson's been treated like shit and he's been like subjugated by Willem Dafoe, and it's just this, it's like it amplifies this power struggle amidst all the chaos that Robert Pattinson's getting the upper hand, and it's so just nuts that he's like making him act like a dog and then burying him alive. It's insane.
Well, so and then there's, I forget when exactly this is, but there's one part where they just, like, all they do is yell what to each other over and over and over again. And just the way, like, the line readings that they each have is just, is great. Like, they're saying a lot more than just what, you know?
I can't wait for the inevitable memification of that, where they include Samuel L. Jackson. Say what one more time.
Get on it.
Yep, I will make that my life's work. So good. So what did you... like, all of the mermaid stuff was so strange to me. And just, the whole, like, the little statue that he had, the figurine, and it has this kind of talismanic kind of strength to him that's likely all in his head, I think. But what'd you make of that as a piece of this crazy mess?
I think it fit well with who this guy is and like what he would cling to in that environment. I mean, they didn't really have any books or obsessive viewer podcasts to listen to, so I mean, the next best thing, you know?
Yep. Ugh. Just think, things could have been so different for them. So, Yeah, so, what did you think of the end and everything? Anything else we should talk about?
No, I mean, it's, like I said, it's one of those movies where you kind of feel like you know what's going to happen, from the beginning, but, the way that they get there is really entertaining.
Yes. And, like, this is going to make me sound like an idiot, but I love that we have, like, a filmmaker like Robert Eggers and also Ari Aster doing, like, Midsommar and Hereditary, that they're making these horror films, and also Jordan Peele as well. This was such a great year for like, I would say prestige horror, I guess.
Well, and let me ask you this, because I think I can't remember if I put this in my review or not, but would you qualify this as a horror movie? Because, I mean, there's that one jump scare at the end, which wasn't even really all that much. But it's more like a psychological, I don't know if thriller is the right word.
I would say it qualifies for my definition of horror, if only because of my previously mentioned kind of adjustment of horror, like my turn of, I don't know, the way that I consume horror has changed, I guess.
Sure.
I would definitely count it as horror.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there is definitely some freaky shit that happens.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say that The Witch is a horror movie.
Oh, definitely.
So, I mean, I wouldn't fault anyone for calling this a horror movie, but it's not, like, on par with, like, you know, Scream or even Hereditary in terms of just the amount that you'll be afraid, you know?
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. Like, it's something that I feel like the way that horror, and this is something I'll have to pick Mike's brain about, but the way that horror is, I wouldn't say evolving, but the way that horror in the mainstream is evolving.
Yeah.
And like we have these people that are making these horror films, like Midsommar. Did you see Midsommar?
Yeah.
Okay. I recently watched it and man, I loved it. Like, it's not a conventional horror movie by any stretch, but it has this unsettling, unnerving horror quality to it that's just, like, I feel like there's another, like, in my Letterboxd review for Midsommar, I mentioned that the first 10 minutes just kind of solidifies what I already knew from Hereditary, that Ari Aster is making, is creating emotional horror on a level that no other filmmaker has an effect on me.
Yeah.
And I made a point to bold emotional horror because I feel like that is a subset of horror because it's just like, and maybe that's just a fancy way of saying psychological thriller, but I feel like there's a different, like, I feel like there's a different category emerging and I love it.
It's more accessible, I feel like, to the casual moviegoers.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I don't do a whole lot of horror movies. I try to steer clear of the, like, I mean, I've never seen any of the Halloween movies or Friday the 13th or, you know, so I don't know if I should immediately be kicked off the podcast for saying that, but...
well, so soon after Shocktober, we'll give you a pass.
Okay.
Just if your car breaks down in a like cornfield area and everything, just, you know, don't get out.
I do plan on getting around to them eventually. So
I do say that the first Halloween is incredible.
Okay.
It's a classic.
Okay.
Yeah, so is that our review of The Lighthouse?
I said all that I need to.
I think I have too. So that's our review of The Lighthouse. Let us know what you think, and definitely check out Ben's review on ObsessiveViewer.com, and follow him on Letterboxd as well. Ben Sears is his username, And also follow me at Obsessive Viewer. You know what? And I haven't been doing this and everything, but if you've been listening to this and you want a free pro membership to Letterboxd, first person to send me an email at obsessiveviewer@gmail.com or matt@obsessiveviewer.com, I will get you a free pro membership to Letterboxd. So if you're listening to this, go ahead and send me an email and I will get that. And also, put your username in the email and I will get you a free pro membership that gets you stats and everything. Yeah, so do that, and then are you good on time? Do you want to do some potpourri?
Yeah, we can do that.
Sweet. All right. So I feel like we never do this anymore. So as is usually the case, we're going to round out this episode with some potpourri, which is the section of the podcast where we kind of wind down and talk about things that we've watched, things that we're looking forward to, anything we want, as long as it smells good. It's our potpourri section. And Ben, since you are our guest, why don't you hit us with your potpourri?
Okay. I could probably talk about a couple of things, but
nice. I can too, so we'll just swap.
Sure. So we talked about this in the pre-roll Patreon stuff.
Check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer.
But I came to find out that because I got a new iPhone, I get a free year of Apple TV Plus. I had absolutely no intention of signing up for it, but I mean, I'm all for some free shit, so here we are. And because I'm a diligent guest on the podcast, I went ahead and I watched there's 4 shows that Apple has really pushed at their launch of Apple TV Plus, and I watched the pilot episodes of each of those shows. So here we are, and I can talk about them.
Okay.
So, I mean, right off the bat, I don't know if I would recommend subscribing to Apple TV Plus, at least not right now. So they did a weird thing, and I mean, it's kind of Apple's MO to do what nobody else is doing, but like Disney Plus, they're going to have, bookfuls of shows and movies and stuff available at launch. With Apple TV Plus, it's just, like I said, like 6 shows, maybe 7. There's no movies available to stream for free. I mean, you can do just through regular Apple TV, you can rent movies and TV shows and stuff, or buy them. Right. But there's none that are included with Apple TV Plus. So it's kind of a weird decision. I mean, there will be some. I know there's one with like Aaron Paul and what's her name? She was in Ma earlier this year.
Octavia Spencer?
Yes.
Okay.
At least I'm pretty sure that's who it is. But there's a movie coming out later this year starring them. But really that's all that I've seen so far.
Wow.
And then like even these shows that they put out on launch, like, so there, like I said, there's 4 main ones that they're pushing. There's For All Mankind, there's C, there's Dickinson, and The Morning Show. And I think Dickinson is the only one that has like a full season out right now. The other ones, there's only like 3 episodes available to watch right now.
Sure.
And I'm sure they'll be releasing each one like week by week, but
kind of a similar model to like Hulu.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of weird. Just like I said, I would not recommend subscribing right now.
Wow.
Maybe wait another month or 2, and then, I mean, fortunately, it's cheap. It's like $5 a month, but even if I didn't get this for free, I don't think I would be subscribing right now. But anyway, so I watched those 4 shows. None of them, I would say, are really much to write home about.
Okay. Like, C looks ridiculous. Like, I saw the trailer for C and I thought, holy shit, this looks bad.
Yeah. Ridiculous is a pretty accurate description. It's basically like they just kind of started throwing things out there just to see what would work. And that's the one with Jason Momoa and some other people that you might recognize, but nobody really name-worthy. The big one that they've been pushing, and obviously the one that they put the most eggs in their basket, is The Morning Show with Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston, and Reese Witherspoon.
Okay.
I would say I almost like that one the least.
Oh, interesting.
Just because...
Is it a drama, comedy?
Yeah, it's a drama. So basically it's pretty much a dramatization of the whole Matt Lauer thing, like to a T.
Okay.
Like Steve Carell is basically Matt Lauer and he gets fired for sexual harassment.
Okay.
And it's kind of weird how nicely he fits into that role.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
But it's so kind of over the top and convoluted. Really the only person that I liked in the pilot episode anyway is Billy Crudup.
Okay.
He plays the network president.
Okay.
And his role is just kind of smarmy and weird. But anyway, I mean, all of these, I guess, comes with the asterisk that, like, in the age of streaming, pilots, are kind of, there's less importance on a pilot,
That's true, yeah.
It used to be where, like, the pilot episode was basically, like, you could tell what the rest of the show was going to be about.
Right.
And then these, it's kind of obvious that they built them to stream, So that was that. Dickinson is fine. I don't know. It's about Emily Dickinson, Haley Steinfeld.
I like her.
She's good. They tried to make it like, they tried to make it appealing to the kids, basically. So this is kind of what I'm saying in a nutshell. So at the end of the first episode, she gets into a carriage with Death, who is played by Wiz Khalifa.
Wow.
Where they go and smoke weed together. So
that combination of words?
Yeah.
I did not expect any of that.
And just kind of throughout, there's rap music that kind of plays in the background every once in a while, and it's kind of played for laughs every, Jane Krakowski's in it too.
Okay. Wow.
And it's out there. I don't know.
Jeez.
I might actually watch more episodes of it just out of curiosity.
Wow.
But I don't know. I get why they did it, just because could be such a dry story, and so they needed to make it appealing.
So
but
is it played like as a comedy?
There are some funny moments to it, yeah.
Okay. That's something else.
But For All Mankind, I watched as well.
That's what I'm most interested in. But yeah.
I think it's got some potential. I think I'm excited for it. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's kind of another like alternate history kind of take, where what if the Russians were the first ones on the moon instead of us? Yeah. So it's got Joel Kinnaman, a couple other character actors that you'd probably recognize, although I don't know off the top of my head from where, but you'll recognize them when you see them.
Nice.
But It's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, like I kind of forgot that it was launching.
Yeah.
As we're recording this, it launched last Friday, and this is Monday. And I forgot about it until I saw like some tweets about it and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. And I looked into it, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get the subscription and I'll watch it. But like I said in the Patreon recording, I think, there's just, like, having an Android phone, there's no way to cast it. Like, there's no app on the Android phone to have it play, like, to cast it to my TV, which was what I would do. Like, the only option I would have is to, and I don't have a smart TV, so, like, the only option I have is, like, watching it on my laptop, and I'm like, I'm not going to pay even $5 to get access to that just so I can watch it on my laptop. Like, that's just not, that's not what, DJ Matty Fresh on the ones and twos is about. But,
okay.
So, I don't know why I decided to throw that in there. But yeah, and also, like, there's no app on, like, PS4.
Right.
Whereas my understanding of, like, Disney Plus, which is launching next week, is going to be available everywhere.
Yeah.
And, like, that's something I kind of, and, like, so you said that just the TV shows, the original series are on there, there's no movies?
Well, like I said, there's the regular Apple TV app, and that you can rent and you can buy movies from, but there's none that are included to stream
Plus
with your subscription.
See, that that makes me not want to do it at all.
You can't stream like The Matrix or just other movies that are on like Netflix or whatever.
It sounds like it's an interesting, like, it could be an interesting, like, service for someone who has, like, Apple products, like an extension of Apple users, but like as a standalone thing, like, I'm not going to buy into it, or I'm not going to try it. It seems like they just, judging from, like, your experience and what you said, like, it just seems like they were in a rush to get it out.
Yeah.
Ahead of Disney Plus.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Just, I don't know, but yeah. Yeah, well, that's cool. That's good to know. Shall I go to my potpourri?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I have a lot of stuff I could bring up. As soon as Tiny gets back from out of town, we're going to do an extended potpourri, I think. We keep saying that, but who knows? What I want to mention, you know what? Actually, for this, okay. I will do the 4 special presentation movies I saw at Heartland, since I didn't do that on the podcast before.
Okay.
So, I saw 4 special presentation movies at Heartland Film Festival a couple of weeks ago. The special presentations were screenings of movies, like studio movies that they got permission to screen at Heartland Film Festival as special presentations ahead of their wide release and everything. So, they had a ton of them. I didn't get to see all of them, obviously. Although the group that I'm a part of, the Indiana Film Journalists Association, we did do an award. We were, the group partnered with Heartland, and we did an award for the year. And, basically it was the IFJA Best Special Presentation Award. And we awarded it to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is a movie I didn't see. But I trust the ones who celebrated that in the group. So I did get to see 4 special presentation movies at Heartland. The first one that I saw was the opening night film, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which comes out later this month, I think. It's got Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. I almost said Mr. Rogers, like Michael Scott in The Office. So as Mr. Rogers, and it's an interesting movie. It's an interesting companion to A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, or to
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Yeah.
Which was out last year. That was a documentary, obviously, and this is a narrative feature. It's not a conventional biopic. It's not like the life of Fred Rogers as portrayed by Tom Hanks. It's a unique movie in that it is basically telling the story of Fred Rogers' friendship with a journalist who's on some, like, who's going through some hard times.
Yeah.
And what's really great about it, or what I really latched onto about it, I should say, is that it was really good at demonstrating what he was and what he meant to people, and how the way that he interacted with people and like interacted with children on his show wasn't exclusive to just children. Like it was interesting to see a depiction of his reach extend to an adult. And I liked a lot of that for that. It's been a few weeks, so I mean, this will be a kind of light review, but it was a pretty solid movie. It's not going to make my top 10 or anything. It was a great movie to start Heartland Film Festival this year with, though. And yeah, I really liked Tom Hanks's performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you believe it was him? Like, because I feel like it would be. It's kind of distracting for me, just because, like, I mean, he does in a way look like Fred Rogers, but I feel like there's a part of me that feels like it will come across as just Tom Hanks doing a Fred Rogers impression, and I don't know how much I'll be able to get past that, you know?
I totally get those reservations, and it is a little bit of that to an extent.
Okay.
But like he's got the cadence of Mr. Rogers down really well, and the kind of tenderness to it. So, I do think he did a really great job, and I think that really shines through.
Okay.
But it is a little bit distracting at first, but as it progresses, you can kind of see it. What I appreciate about it is that it's a very subdued performance. It's very, like, he's not, like, doing an impression. It's just, he feels at home in that. And obviously, he's Tom Hanks. He's America's dad. So
yeah, of course.
So he's like, I can't imagine a better actor to have him, to be Rogers.
To be your neighbor?
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's awesome. That's why we pay you the big bucks. We should not.
We can get on that.
So I saw In Fabric, which was the second of 4 special presentations I saw at Heartland. In Fabric is a very unique case because it is the start of Heartland Horror, which is a sidebar kind of experiment that they're doing. They're officially going to start it next year with the Indie Shorts Festival and Heartland Film Festival. So, Indie Shorts is going to have Heartland Horror, a collection of horror short films, and then the festival in October, Heartland Film Festival, is going to have features of horror movies as a sidebar presentation. So, In Fabric was the first, or was kind of like a little taste of it. So it's directed by Peter Strickland, who directed some, The Duke of Burgundy, which I've heard is really crazy and weird. I haven't seen any of his movies or anything.
Okay. I think I've heard of that one.
The Duke of Burgundy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard crazy things. I think it's on Hulu.
Okay.
But In Fabric is a haunting ghost story set against the backdrop of a busy winter sales period in a department store, following the life of a cursed dress as it passes from person to person with devastating consequences. This is a weird ass movie. Like, if you liked The Lighthouse, like, you'll probably appreciate In Fabric.
Okay.
Do you know anything about this movie aside from what I just said? Okay. So it is very...
Is it part of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants universe?
Oh, I wish. No, it is so weird and out there. It is very evocative of, and I haven't seen this movie, so it's not a fair comparison, but it's very evocative of the style of, like, Suspiria, like the original Suspiria.
Okay.
And, like, classic, like, 70s, like Dario Argento.
Like psycho horror.
Yeah. Like, kind of like 70s, kind of grimy, kind of psychedelic kind of horror. Mm-hmm. Just really weird and crazy. It's got some really, really weird imagery in it that's just, I can't describe, like, there's stuff involving mannequins that's just one of the most bizarre things I've seen in a movie my whole life. Well, I don't know if I'd say whole life, but yeah, it's like, I thought it was okay. Like, it got 3 stars from me on Letterboxd. I thought it was okay. Very interesting movie for Heartland. And it's funny because I was there. I was excited because it was actually the first real, like, screening I went to that, like, other members of the IFJA were at. And, like, I was talking with them outside of the theater, after the movie. And one of them, Evan, is the guy who he's been kind of in charge of, picking the movies for Heartland Horror, this next year. So he picked In Fabric, and we were talking, and this old lady came up, and she went up to him, and she's like, "Are you the guy who's programming this for next year?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, I'm 69 years old, and I'm apologize for stepping on, like, stuff I've said on Patreon. But anyway, I'm 69 years old. My father was a projectionist, and so I've seen a lot of movies over the course of my life. This was the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And please pick better things."
Wow.
It was so funny. But this movie was weird. The big problem I have with it is that it tells different stories. It's not necessarily like an anthology format, but, like, we spend a lot of time with the first vignette, I would say, of characters who are, like, it's this kind of lonely woman who is divorced, and she lives with her grown son who has a relationship with a woman played by Gwendolyn Christie. And there's this, like, undercurrent of, like, jealousy and like this power dynamic between Gwendolyn Christie and this woman. And she's kind of empowered by this dress and everything. And, like, that's cool. But then, like, partway through, like, it switches to a completely different story involving a different person with the dress and everything. And I don't know, I just didn't really care for that format because I was more invested in the first set of characters than I were in any of the characters that remained in the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just such a bonkers movie. It's so weird. I don't know when it will be released or anything, but I guess check it out if you're into that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yep. And then I have 2 more special presentations to talk about. First, the next one, number 3, is something I'm going to be talking about in a couple of months. Marriage Story. Noah Baumbach, the latest movie, from him, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson play a married couple who are going through a separation and divorce proceedings. And this movie just was a powerhouse for me. The writing is incredible. Like, Noah Baumbach has this style to him. I've only seen a few of his movies, but he has this very naturalistic, almost, I don't want to say voyeuristic style, but he has this very naturalistic kind of way that he has, like, the actors play in the scenes and the writing and everything. It's so just beautifully done. And in this movie, it is playing with such an emotional, like, it's playing to such an emotional range that when, like, you just feel these characters in this situation that is out of their control, meaning the divorce proceedings and everything. It's out of their control. And, like, even when it gets the most contentious, it's not necessarily them that's being contentious about it. It's their lawyers, and it's the whole concept of divorce and everything. And they have a young child who's kind of in the middle of it, but it's not played to this melodramatic effect. It's just a very naturalistic thing. Yeah. And I was just blown away by it. There is a scene, kind of the emotional crux of the entire movie, where, it's Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. They're doing acting, and, like, the power in that scene, it's like where things are bubbling up and everything. Like, it is one of the best scenes in terms of acting and presentation and everything, and just payoff of story. It's one of the best I've seen all year. Wow. And it's just, like, I want Adam Driver in particular to get an Oscar for it. It's the best I've ever seen of him in anything.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets nominated, at least.
Same. Yeah. For this or The Rise of Skywalker.
Could be both.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, Brad Pitt might be nominated for Ad Astra and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so You never know.
Right. So that's Marriage Story. It's coming out on Netflix
December 6th.
December 6th.
I only know because I set a reminder to myself on my phone.
It's I can't wait to see it again, honestly.
Yeah.
And very kind of a surprise appearance by Alan Alda in it.
Okay.
Which I love that man. And it was really cool to see him in a movie because I remember hearing like he has like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or something maybe. He came out and announced it like a year or two ago, so I'm glad to see him actually, working. And he has such a great line. He plays one of Adam Driver's lawyers, and he says to him like a kind of an emotional scene. He says to Adam Driver like, "Yeah, I think that this is the right line. You guys will see on December 6th." But he says something to the effect of, you remind me of my second wife. I don't know. It was funny. I butchered that. I think that there was more to it. Anyway, that's Marriage Story. Can't wait. And then I have one more, if you'll indulge me.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just Mercy. Have you heard about this movie at all?
I know that it's got Michael B. Jordan and maybe one or two other minor actors or minor characters that I know of, but no. Go ahead.
Okay. So it stars Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, Brie Larson.
Yeah, I think I've heard of her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
future Mrs. Matt Hurt. That would be amazing. O'Shea Jackson Jr., Rafe Spall, and Rob Morgan, and Tim Blake Nelson. So the plot is it's directed by Destin Daniel Creighton, by the way, who did Short Term 12.
Okay.
Did you ever see Short Term 12?
It's on my list on Netflix.
I saw it and I enjoyed it. I think I was expecting a little bit more from it. I should probably rewatch it. But he also did The Glass Castle, also with Brie Larson, and he has been tapped to direct Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings for the MCU.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nice.
So the plot, it's based on actual, historical stuff. It is based on the writer's experience. I can't remember what the writer's name is, and I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Bryan Stevenson. So it is the powerful. I was searching for the name and it's right here. Anyway, the plot description: the powerful true story of Harvard-educated lawyer Bryan Stevenson, who goes to Alabama to defend the disenfranchised and wrongly condemned, including Walter McMillan, a man sentenced to death despite evidence proving his innocence. Bryan fights tirelessly for Walter with the system stacked against them. So this movie was the closing night film of Heartland Film Festival 2019, and it's competently made. It's good. It's that just brand of movie that is begging for an Oscar.
Yeah.
And begging for awards consideration, which is something that I'm not going to make comparisons to movies like Green Book, because it's not, and that's not a fair comparison by any stretch, but it's that kind of movie that is meant to whet the appetites of Oscar, Academy voters. It's fine. It's okay. Jamie Foxx is good. He plays the prisoner that Bryan Stevenson is working on, trying to free. And it hits all the marks of a standard, legal courtroom drama. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But the one thing that I was very disappointed in was that Brie Larson is given nothing to work with. And that was such a bummer to me. She's introduced as she's working with Bryan Stevenson when he gets to Alabama, and then once he's established himself in Alabama, she's just a side character with nothing to do.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't to my liking. People might, and that's the crazy thing. So it was the closing night film. It was a packed house. It was closing night, so it was sold out. And the crowd went crazy. The crowd loved this movie.
Wow.
And that's great, but the whole time I'm thinking okay, Rafe Spall is doing this weird. He's playing the county he's playing a district attorney or something. and he's doing this weird affectation on his voice that's like he's trying to do a southern accent, but it's not really working.
Okay.
And it's just like he's almost cartoonish a little bit. They have the standard like, oh, this is the South in the past, so we have to have like
the racist old white guy.
Racist old white guys, which I'm careful. I'm fine with them depicting that because that's historically accurate and everything.
Right.
But the way that it was depicted reminded me of the way that was depicted in, say, Remember the Titans, which is a fine movie, but it's also a Disney PG-13 movie that is going to be kind of a depiction of the like horrors of like racism and stuff, but in a way that's like family friendly. And that kind of is the impression I got from that. So, I mean, you've seen this movie 100 times. It's a courtroom drama. You know what to expect and everything. It was fine. There were some good performances. I will say there is a sequence involving and the electric chair. I'll say that I thought was like where the movie almost like clicked for me and like really worked pretty well. But I mean, that's in the middle of the movie and it just didn't really surpass that at all.
Okay.
So that's my potpourri. Those are the special presentation movies I saw at Heartland.
Quick question before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
Is Michael B. Jordan shirtless in Just Mercy?
I want to say there may be a scene where he is shirtless.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Then it can't be a total loss,
It's
right?
not. It's not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Brie Larson is not. Though. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Keep on dreaming.
Yeah. Oh, I will. Do you have another thing for potpourri? Kind of round us out?
Yeah. Let's see. There's two things that I could talk about. One that I just watched, it just dropped on Netflix, is The King. Have you heard of it?
I have. Timothy Chalamet?
Yes, Timothy Chalamet, Joel Edgerton, Robert Pattinson is also in it, but we'll get back to that. So it's this, from what I've read, it's basically a combination of Shakespeare's, they call it the Henriade.
Okay.
So he did Henry IV parts 1 and 2 and Henry V. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a combination of those. So Timothy Chalamet plays Henry V, and he's this kind of drunken son of the king, and that's where he starts out the movie. And so Henry IV is his dad, played by Ben Mendelsohn, and he eventually dies. So Timothy Chalamet takes over. He's the king, and they go to war. It's the 100 Years' War, and it's it was just so boring.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay.
And most of it is just these monotonous conversations between Timothy Chalamet and just his advisors and stuff.
Okay.
And I'm gonna drop a review, hopefully either tomorrow or sometime this week. Hopefully before this episode comes out, we'll see. Mm-hmm. But it was just so tedious and so hard to get through. It's, and it's not because it's like based on Shakespeare, because, I mean, yeah, Shakespeare is kind of hard to understand and hard to, I don't know, hard to get through if you're not paying close attention enough.
I saw a 3.5 hour production of Hamlet Saturday, which Kirsten was in, and it was great. It was a great production and everything, but like I felt that like it It's like it's a language unto itself.
Right. But I mean, this doesn't have that, thank God. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have gotten through it. But at least, like, he could write drama and he could write these intriguing character dynamics, and this just, it didn't really have that. I don't know how to describe it accurately without spoiling a whole lot, but
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. It was rough.
Wow.
So
I may skip that then.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, he's fine. He does his thing, which is like this angsty,
brooding kind of.
Yeah, but as the King of England, which he can kind of surprisingly pull off a British accent, I guess.
Okay.
I'm maybe not the best judge of these things, historically speaking, but I was more or less convinced. So he's fine. Joel Edgerton's character was just so weird, and he goes, like, at one point, he just starts just being like a sack of potatoes, basically.
Okay.
And he's supposed to be Chalamet's best friend, and he can turn to him for advice and everything. And basically, at one point, he just is a nobody. I don't know how to describe it really, but you start to, like, not trust what he has to say or what advice he can give. But anyway, and there's really no reason for it that I could tell why he underwent this change or why he continues to trust in him. But so anyway, like I said, Robert Pattinson is in it, and he's in it for like 3 minutes.
Really?
It sucks, and he's the best part. He is, like, he plays this French guy, and it's, again, he's doing this weird accent. But he plays, like, the Prince of France.
Okay.
I don't know if that's exact title, but that's basically what he is. And so he's, every time you see him, he's just there to, like, taunt Timothée Chalamet, and, like, at one point he, like, makes fun of his dick and how small it is.
I think I've heard, like, people reference that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And so every time he's on screen, you want more of it, but he's only in there for, a couple minutes.
Jeez.
And I don't know. I wish that there was more of him, and that maybe even he had his own movie, but, it is what it is.
Director previously did War Machine.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. How was that?
I think I saw it like when it first came out on Netflix, because it's another Netflix exclusive from their early days. It's okay. It's Brad Pitt, and he's a general. I forget his name, based on real life.
Right.
But I remember not really loving it.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like there was just so many ideas that they had, or things that they tried to do, and none of them really worked all that well together.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Cool. Well, I think that should do it. Yeah, there's other stuff I can bring up, but yeah, it'll be Tangent City. So, So, anything else for Potpourri, or should I shut it down?
No. Well, this is kind of a funny story.
Okay.
So this movie hasn't come out yet. Are you familiar with Dark Water, or maybe it's Dark Waters?
I know the name.
It's got Mark Ruffalo. I want to say Anne Hathaway's in it.
Okay.
Directed by the guy that did Carol.
Okay.
Anyway, it's another, like, legal thriller, kind of like a John Grisham book. So the only reason I bring this up is it's based on a true story, and it's based on Mark Ruffalo's character is a lawyer who is a lawyer at the law firm where I work at.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who is still a lawyer. So it's basically like, it's kind of an Aaron Brockovich type story where he's, DuPont is like poisoning the water in this town, and Mark Ruffalo plays the lawyer who's like prosecuting them. Wow. And I just, it was a weird coincidence. I don't know if I'll see it because it looks okay, but
wow, that's nuts.
So if you do see it though, and you see a handsome legal assistant in the background, just let me know, and that's me.
Nice, that's awesome. That comes
and I'll
out.
Collect my royalties.
Nice. It's a Dark Waters, and according to IMDb, it comes out November 22nd. So that's cool. Nice. Awesome. Well, I think that will just about do it for episode 299. Holy shit. Of the Obsessive Viewer podcast.
Just missed 300 by one.
I know. It would have been 300 if I had gotten my shit together. And
I'll come back to your house each night until we record 300.
Nice. It'll be a complete Zack Snyder retrospective. In particular, 300.
Plus the rest of Summer of Sandler.
Yes. Oh, God. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah. That's gonna happen eventually, I'm sure. But yeah, so thank you once again for joining me, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't remember if I thanked you before, so thank you. Also, thank you for all your work on the website. It's super good to have someone posting content and everything.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have you back at some point, I'm sure. And, yeah, so I'm going to round out the episode. I forget how I do that, so you can find more of our information at the pre-recorded outro. Coming up next time on the podcast, I think episode 300, what it's looking like it's going to be is maybe a solo episode from me, in which I review a bunch of Disney Plus stuff. Because I got access to screeners, and I want to get that posted the day that it releases. So look forward to that. Episode 300 will be a review of Lady and the Tramp, and the stuff that they gave me to watch, none of which is The Mandalorian.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Mandalorian. But which I assume The Mandalorian is just a movie about a man who transforms into the car from Back to the Future.
Yep.
Yep. So, but yeah, look forward to that. Disney Plus reviews Lady and the Tramp, Encore, the Something World of Jeff Goldblum, High School Musical, the series, and some other stuff. So, yeah, look forward to that. That should be fun. And, yeah, that'll do it. Once again, I'm going to be writing a review of Dr. Sleep for Hypable this weekend, so check that out. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you once again, Ben, and check out Patreon, and have a good night.
Let's get back to the Lighthouse.
Yes. Yeah, I got nothing. Alright, take it easy, guys. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. My little kitty. Be so well.
You're keeping that in, right?
Oh, definitely. Oh, all the time. My little baby. Come here, little baby. It's okay. Come here. Come here. I know you're pretty. I know. I just imagine she's always telling me that she's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. And follow us on Twitter at obsessiveviewer and at obsessivetiny. And follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at burger_lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate, or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, The Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!